The book I'm reading today is The Gatekeeper by Nuraya Nurazit. This is a local book here in Singapore, and the starting chapter has been really interesting so far. It's kind of like a fantasy, but also loosely based on like human society. So I'm not really good at reading fantasy or like magical worlds and things like that. So this is a bit of a challenge, but we'll see. In the meantime, I will also be um, I guess designing a thumbnail for my next video. I did film another video to be uploaded today, which is the video on the books that I encountered by accident or by chance. Typically what I do is to get a screen cap from my video and then make a thumbnail in Procreate. So this thumbnail is a bit haphazard because I didn't really like having a plain background for this one, but it turned out a lot more campy than I expected. And then I will upload the thumbnail onto the YouTube Studio app on my iPad and just be done with it. Yep. Here's a bunch of my thumbnails. I guess I pretty much stick to the same format using the same font. I guess the one that I put most effort in would be the earlier ones when I used to draw everything. So I drew all of this. Hi everyone, it's another day, and today I'll be bringing Agent P to the vet. So just last week she had to undergo a massive surgery for pyometra. If you don't know what that is basically an infection of the uterus, which meant that she had to be spayed pretty early on. So we're going back to just check if everything's alright. She's been in recovery for like a week. Yeah, so it's been a huge source of like worry and anxiety the past week, but things are getting better. I also want to take the time to like talk a little bit more in this vlog. I realized that my previous vlog I didn't really talk a lot, and as I mentioned, I'm still pretty new to the whole genre of vlogs, trying to figure out exactly how that might fit in with lifestyle content or like the stuff that I would make about books and different ideas. And there's this there's this YouTube channel run by Alice that she's been amazing in like doing her content and doing a lot of commentary, and she's been so generous in kind of talking about my content and sharing with her audience my videos, and I'm really grateful for that. And I really enjoyed her previous video that just got released on BookTube, and with the BookTube is meant to be an educational experience, and this is something I think about a lot as well. And I definitely do think that reading books in itself is not sufficient, that it has to be coupled with a lot of other things. It has to be coupled with mindset changes and with a lot of other things like being part of your community, etc. And I would want to say again that I am not someone that I think, you know, really fulfills all of this successfully, but really talking about books and sharing about books is one way that I am willing to do publicly with, you know, people, whereas in other ways I might be a lot more private about it, and that everyone have different circumstances in which they can do what they can. And we know that in Singapore there are a lot of limitations to how we can engage politically and in a civic way, in a civic society. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. And I wanted to share a bit of my thoughts on what I feel about other booktubers that have been able to get such a huge audience. I understand that my channel is not so typical of a booktube channel, although I still want to be known as a booktuber or someone that primarily shares about books. I realize that a lot of booktubers do a lot of lifestyle content, and they are based in, you know, quite the typical sort of background. Maybe they're from the UK or from the US. They tend to be young people. I mean, I'm also a young person, and they also kind of tend to come from an English literature background and have been doing content for a long time. So for me, I have been thinking about this, like how do I make lifestyle content, because I also want to be able to incorporate books and reading into my everyday life. Like I mentioned, In my other video that I wanted to show that it wasn't all like books and intellectual heavy stuff, but you can actually want to read books and apply the ideas in your life and to go about your life in a way that feels aligned with what you read. I realize I struggle a lot with this, primarily for a few reasons. I live with my family, so I don't want to film other parts of my home so much because of privacy reasons. I also realize that aesthetically, I find it quite difficult to romanticize my life because of what I see online versus what I see in my real life. Things like how the streets look, or how I look as someone who looks East Asian, or how I go about my day, the library. I find it very hard to fit that into like what would constitute like legitimate, what would be seen as a legitimate lifestyle content. I wouldn't know if people would be interested in seeing how a Singaporean street looks like, because it's just so different from how maybe in the UK, when you go down in the streets of London, it might look quite different. So I feel that a lot, and I struggle with that romanticizing of my life. I don't know whether that makes sense. Also, I saw this comment on my previous vlog. Someone was asking me why I look so tired. Maybe people might see my blemishes and they might see my eye bags and they might think I'm tired, but this is kind of like how my normal face looks like. I mean, I don't know how this is supposed to look tired and not, as in, is it supposed to look like anything else? And I definitely feel really conscious about the condition of my skin when I'm on camera a lot. Some weeks I don't film at all just because I have a pretty bad outbreak and I feel really conscious on the screen. This is something that I guess people don't really tell you about content creating. That is a lot of the internalized beauty notions right there. But I do think that people are a lot more open nowadays when it comes to like how you look like on screen. And I'm really glad for that, because I still remember there used to be so much more lashback when it came to like people who wore a lot of makeup to cover their blemishes, whereas nowadays people are a lot more understanding of different skin conditions and not wanting to cover up your skin so much. I think that's a good thing.
Like I said, people think if you just have internet access and the technology to film yourself and somewhere to upload, it's not that hard to make it as a YouTuber or something. I don't think that this is a narrative that a lot of people have anymore, but it definitely was something for a while of like, oh, you're an internet stuff. What does that even mean?
Today I'm going to be filming a video, just a really short one on content creating. It's been something I've been wanting to share a little bit more in the sit down and talk video. After that, I'm probably going to go return my library books because they are overdue. I have to pay my fines. Yeah, so let's go, I guess. So I normally do a quick sketch or script in Notion in terms of what I want to address in my videos. But most of my videos are actually pretty spontaneous. I think I'm someone that tends to improvise quite a bit on the fly. So even though I have a rough script, I tend to add more points as I'm talking. And I try to do things in one take, but sometimes the ideas are not fully formed enough, and therefore I have to like give it another day or two until I feel like confident enough to make the video about the topics I want to address. My setup is pretty simple. I just have my Yeti Nano mic as well as my Canon 90D that I got many years ago. I got this DSLR like second hand about 5 years back, I think. Someone bought it and tried to experiment with it but didn't like the device in the end. It's been serving me really well throughout the years I've had it. Normally I just use the tripod, but nowadays I've been wanting to film on a bit of an elevation, so I've been using this book. It's a local publication. It's a pretty thick book and I've been using it as a additional height, unfortunately, but I've been reading it, don't worry. So I just finished filming the video and I made myself some avocado coconut because the avocados that we have because the avocados were getting overripe. Yeah, I don't know whether you know about this brand called Mr. Coconut, but it's really popular in Singapore. Ever since we had Mr. Coconut, my family has been recreating the coconut shake at home a lot. So I just took some of that and I blended it with avocado. Yeah. So these are some of the books that I got in the end. This is by Amitav Ghosh. It's part of the Penguin Classics series, I think, that is focused on the environment, like climate related books. So a whole bunch of the authors, Naomi Klein and Greta Thunberg included. Other than that, every other book that I got is Singapore related. I realize I haven't been reading a lot of Singlit or Singapore related stuff on my channel and I really want to change that. So previously I was reading the novel The Gatekeeper, but I couldn't really keep my attention on it, so I decided to get this instead. I really enjoyed Sufyan Hakim's previous book, The Minorities, and this is his most recent published novel, which I'm pretty interested to get into because his writing style is really entertaining and quite engaging. This one, I've never heard of this author before, but this is also part of a collection of different short stories by local authors, and the cover is really pretty. I was really tempted to buy a bunch of the books in this collection just because of the design of the cover, which I guess he did a good job by doing. Yeah, so I've never heard of this author, but the synopsis looks really interesting. Yeah, this one I've seen a couple of times. It is kind of translated by Nasri Barawi, who was the person that edited Singapura, and I really enjoyed that series of short stories. I've been wanting to read a lot more Malay authors in Singapore as well. This one is kind of an arts publication. This is published by the National Gallery in Singapore. They recently had a exhibition called Something New Must Turn Up, talking about 6 different Singaporean artists in the post-independent era in Singapore, talking about what makes contemporary art in Singapore. So this artist is someone that deals with textiles and print. I thought it was really interesting because I'm someone that really enjoys materiality in artwork. I unfortunately I couldn't see this artist's work in person, but I did see the other artworks that were in this exhibition, and I'm really happy whenever museums publish a book about the exhibition, because it allows me to catch up on what I missed out and also kind of gives me a bit more context about the artworks, which I am totally here for. Yeah, maybe one day I'll do a video talking about different artists in Singapore. That has always been an interest of mine, although I am quite casual, a casual patron of the arts in Singapore. Definitely cannot afford anything, but have always enjoyed the arts.
Art is good. Boy, you sure is sweet, but from your ashes down, you got too much teeth.
So yeah, after the bakery, I did go to a secondhand bookstore, Books Beyond Borders. I did go to their bookstore like last week as well, and I made a TikTok video about it that actually went pretty viral. This time they invited me back to do a sort of holiday campaign thing where they would invite book reviewers like bookstagrammers to come and select a few titles to be packed and then kind of put on sale as like mystery books. So I did pick out a couple of nonfiction books that I hope people will enjoy. I kind of wrote a description for these books, but yeah, I'm really glad that they're doing this kind of thing, and I'm really glad that a lot of bookstores, secondhand bookstores, are popping up a lot more in Singapore. So I did get 3 books. The first one is this called The Craftsman by Richard Sennett. So it is kind of a book about craftsmanship, obviously, and about how the way that we have lost contact with making things, like the materiality of things. In the introduction, I saw that there was a bit on Hannah Arendt, and that kind of sold it for me. I was like, well, if this author has something to do with Hannah Arendt, then probably there's some good thought and discussion in here. And I've been really into understanding materiality as well. I think that's kind of like a very natural inquiry after you think about the digital, and how we live in the digital world, how maybe losing the sense of materiality kind of ties in with how we might be distancing ourselves from the environment as well. A lot of environmental books are all about trying to ground yourself in nature again. So I would like to know a little bit more about craftsmanship. I mean, I feel like craft work has always been something that appealed to me, and I know it's a very gendered discussion as well in the art world, so that is a very intriguing field of study for me. The next 2 books are Singaporean books. So the first one is this called The Last Great Strike, The Untold Story of the Strike That Closed the Straits Time by Clement Mercedes. This probably happened in a pretty prehistoric moment in Singapore. If you don't know what the Straits Times is as well, it's kind of like Singapore's major English publishing newspaper. And yeah, so there's a lot of issue about censorship in Singapore, so this would be really interesting to read, especially from a kind of worker's perspective. If people actually fought for freedom of speech in Singapore a long time back. I don't know about now, I'm not gonna say anything about it. And the last one that I got is SQ21, Singapore Queers in the 21st Century by Ng Yi Sheng, edited by Jason Wee. This was published in 2006. And it's a pretty historic publication as well. So I've always wanted to get my own copy of this book. I've always wanted to read it, and I was super stoked to see that the bookstore had a secondhand copy of this book, because it's such an old book. I mean, it's really very old. And it's kind of printed in a more autobiographical way, like the different people that this book covers are kind of all involved in the LGBTQ scene in Singapore in some way, and I'm really excited to read this. Yeah, and to have it in my personal library, because it's something I've really been wanting to read for the longest time. So that's basically the end of my vlog for this week. Thank you so much for watching. It's been pretty fun to make a vlog. The previous one I didn't really speak because I was getting used to the vlog format, but so many of you enjoyed it, so I thought I should make another one where I talk a little bit more and share a bit more of my everyday thoughts. Yeah, and if a lot of you still enjoy these low quality vlogs, I might consider upgrading my equipment to film much more quality, higher quality stuff. So maybe a video camera or kind of a portable mic situation. So thanks so much for joining me in this vlog and for joining me throughout the week. I hope it was an interesting week to observe my camera angles are still very amateur because I'm still not super confident in wielding my camera out in public. But I hope there's some improvement here. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Please stay safe. I hope you're doing well. If not, I do hope that you get a good night's rest tonight, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best to you and all the best to me, I guess. It's gonna be the new year, so hooray. So yeah, thanks and see you. Thank you and take care.